Hello folks, I hope you're all well and welcome to another episode of Cooking in the Cabin. Thanks very much for clicking on the video. Now, today I'd like to go back in time and wallow in just a touch of nostalgia. Now, Christmas 1977, my mum's very good friend Sheila bought her a cookbook called Quick Dishes, and early the next year, about January 1978, I decided when I came home from school, I decided that I was going to cook my mum this, or a recipe from the book, and surprise her. And the recipe that I chose was baked bean hash, which is actually a corned beef hash, and that's what I'm going to do for you today. And let me tell you that when I presented it to my mum, the first thing she did me was give me a finger in the face bollocking for using the gas stove unsupervised and bits and pieces. I was 13 at the time, on the cusp of being 14, but believe me, she was not impressed. But then she tried it afterwards, and then it was all smiles, and everything turned out all right. So before we do anything else, let me show you around the ingredients. So we have sunflower oil, one large potato, which is about a pound, an onion from the garden, some black pepper, some baked beans, a tin of corned beef, some mixed herbs, which comprises of thyme, sage and oregano, or as our American friends would probably call it, oregano, and some parsley for garnish. Tomato puree, the recipe calls for tomato ketchup, but because these are emergency baked beans, I've decided to use tomato puree. Okay, first thing I'm going to do then is peel a potato. And then we're going to cut it into, the recipe says, into dice. It doesn't actually say the size of the dice, but I suppose the smaller we do it, the quicker it will cook. I'm not going to do it too large. It says the recipe, saute the potato and the onions together for 20 minutes. Now, when I probably did this the first time, I probably did this exactly as the recipe said. And you know, there's no problem with that. But age and experience has taught me that the potatoes are going to take the longest to cook. And really all you're doing is warming the baked beans and the corned beef through. So to that end, the smaller we cut the potato, the better. So while I'm cutting the potato, I'm going to get some oil on in my trusty Coleman petrol stove. Make sure I've got enough pressure. I should have checked this earlier. Well, I think there's plenty in there. Right, up to light. And off we go. As I said before, this flame does take a few moments to settle down. And then it will go blue, and then we can start. Let's get that pan on there, and let's get this potato cut up into dice. Now, there are hashes all over the world. I suppose some people make a hash to use up leftovers and bits and pieces. I know in some Jewish delis in America they have hashes where they use like pastrami, and it looks absolutely sensational. I would like to try that. I'd actually like to try and make pastrami, but that's a whole that'd be a whole different video, believe me. So here we go. I was gonna try and grow some potatoes this year, but I ran out of time, to be honest. I've had some rogue ones in the garden, and that's been a bonus. This is going to be quite a lot of potato, to be honest. I might not need all of it. I'll see how it goes. Again, I'm doing this really for somebody else. There is a poor, impoverished wretch that I know who mainly lives on thin gruel and stale bread. So I promised the bulk of this to her, but I will obviously taste some for quality control. Now, let's put the handle on the pan. And we'll increase the heat. So, that's stage one. Potato is prepped. Let's put these over here for the time being. We've seen the ingredients. And we're going to compost. I compost everything that I possibly can. Is it because I'm an environmental warrior? No, I'm tight. I don't like buying compost. But the result is the same. Do you agree? So, let's test this oil. We're nearly there. Gonna need a spatula. So this spatula must be as old as this recipe book, at least. Oh, what a faithful servant it's been. It's of course over the years it's become infused with all the oils. I like cooking with wooden gear, I must admit. So I think we're ready to put some of this potato in now, and we'll get that sautéing, as they say. Or as we used to say, frying. Now I'm not going to crowd this pan, so I'm definitely not going to use all of this potato. As I said, the recipe calls for £1, but I don't think I had a bigger pan in 1977. I think we'll call that it for the potato. And what I'll do with that is I'll take it inside and I'll use that for something a bit later. Okay? Okay. Let's slice this onion up ready. It says slice the onion. That's a very ambiguous description. So I'm going to chop the onion. Because somebody might be trying this who isn't a fan of massive slices of onion. I love onions. Where would we be without the onion? Everyone's got a different way of chopping an onion. Me, well, I've been bumbling my way through life doing it like this. Some people leave the root on. But as I say with lots of things, if your way works, it's the right way. If anyone's interested, the variety is Centurion. I grew them last year. This is really the only variety I've ever really grown. I've grown some different ones this year called Radar. I've yet to try them. Don't look any different, to be honest, but there might be a subtle difference in flavour. We were talking about onions the other night in the pub, And there's some of them are so mild now. It's almost the merest hint of onion flavour. But I remember years ago, my nan would make a cheese and onion roll, and she'd put a big slice of onion on it, and crikey, the strength of the onion used to take the breath away. And some of us were saying we missed that. We missed that with onions. Okay, let's give these potatoes a bit of a twist around. That's a nice sound, encouraging. What a lovely day again. It was tipping down all day yesterday. But there's an Eastern European saying, I believe, no rain, no flowers. I like that, kind of makes sense. Okay, I'm going to let them saute down there for about another, what, let's say 10 minutes or so, and I'll bring you back then. Okay folks, I've got some colour now on the potatoes, so I think it's time to get the onions in. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Lovely. And the cabin has a wonderful aroma of frying potatoes and onions. Not to everyone's taste, but it certainly is to mine. Now I'm going to turn that down a bit, I think. And what we'll do is we'll allow these onions to sweat down a bit before we basically go to the final phase. What have I said about banging the pan? To drive my mum nuts. Nice. So let's let that cook away for a little while, and then we'll go to the final phase. Okay folks, what I'm going to do now is prep the corned beef. Now our American friends are probably thinking, what in the name of sanity is that in that tin? That's not corned beef. Well, I've seen your version of corned beef and it looks absolutely incredible, fantastic. I also understand the process of how it was taken to America, and it was a form of preserving beef by corning, because the salt, as I believe, was called a corn of salt. So the beef was corned, but now it's become a completely different thing with beautiful spices and brining the meat, and fantastic process. It looks absolutely delicious. This is our version, and it's in a tin, and we've had it over here for, well, maybe 100 years. And this is one of those old-fashioned comedy tins that many people in the UK will remember, and whether or not it works is a lottery. We're off to a good start. Pray that it may continue. Could we be getting this in a oneer? I think we have. You've got to be so careful as well not to cut yourself on these tins. You'll know all about that. And there we are. 1 tin of corned beef. Not to everyone's, it's not very appealing to a lot of people, but I like it. I like it in a sandwich with corned beef. With tomato with corned beef. As you can see, we're starting to get colour on the onions. The potatoes are looking really good. It's almost time to add the liquid part of this hash, which will be the corned bean. The corned beans. I'm all over the place. Corned beans, the baked beans. So I'll put the corned beef to one side, so I'm going to slice that in a minute. Now, my tin opener, it's bitten the dust, fell to pieces. Who remembers these? Little corkscrew as well, and bottle opener. It's all I've got. I've got this out of the camping box. So let's see if I can do this without losing any fingers. So far so good. Let's move this out of the way before I cut my knuckles. I bet people are thinking, go on, slice your finger up for a blooper reel. There's still plenty of time for that. So there we go. On to the beans. Opened and ready. We can also use this, not that there is much, but to deglaze the bottom of the pan, because all of those little bits at the bottom are concentrated flavour. Now what I don't want to do is break all these bits of potato up too much. So here we go with the beans. Get them all out. One more. That's it, we're done. I think at this stage we will also add the mixed herbs and a good few twists of black pepper. I'm not salting this. Obviously, if you're doing it for yourself, you can adjust the seasoning to however you like it. As I said, I'm doing this for other people, so I've got to really take it easy on the seasoning. And I think we'll put in now just a squirt of tomato puree, and we'll give that a good chance to cook out a bit. Otherwise it'll taste raw if we put it in too late. Look at that. Oh God, it smells pretty good. It does. Lovely. Right, let's let that bubble away. Now what I don't want is for that to go too dry, so what I might do is just put a touch So I'm just going to put a touch of water in there, just to slacken it down a bit. Obviously some of that is going to evaporate off, and what I'm going to do now is prepare the corned beef. So, if I remember, I'm trying to turn the clock back now to early 1978, and believe me, that is a while back. And I think I took so much time into cutting them into perfect cubes. We're not going to do that today, but I'm going to cut it into decent chunks, because what I don't want it to do is to break up too much in the pan and become like one sort of homogeneous mass, for the want of a better description. So I think if we go to sort of diced size cubes, I think that would be perfect for this particular hash anyway. You can cut it however you like it. If you want it as one homogeneous mass, why do I keep saying mash? I don't know. Corned beef. Also nice in a sandwich with a bit of salad cream. I know some people like to make corned beef fritters. I'll tell you one other thing it's nice in: a corned beef pie with a mashed top. But I'm going to be doing something like that, but not with corned beef. That'll be for a future program. So what I'm going to do now, so I'm going to get the corned beef in. I'm not going to go too crazy when it comes to stirring the pan around now. As I said, I don't want to break it up too much. This would be, I'll tell you what, wouldn't this be a good camp meal? Probably get, I don't know, 3 people could probably tuck into that. 4 if you've got some other snacks and bits and pieces, who knows? There you go. So I'm just going to wipe my hands and going to gently incorporate the corned beef into the rest of the hash. Dexterity when it comes to the finer points of cooking has never really been my strong suit. I am an oaf, as most people will bear testament to. Now folks, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to let that bubble away for a few more moments. And I think we'll have a result. Well folks, we're there. Bubbling away nicely. It's piping hot. I'm going to turn the heat off. And that will finish off in the residual heat. And just for jolly, I'm going to put a bit of parsley on the top. Again, this isn't in the recipe, but I've got some parsley growing outside and I quite like it. Not sure they're going to like it down the road, but if they mix it in, they'll never know. So here we go. Corned beef hash, or baked bean hash, from a 1977 recipe book that was given to my mum. Let's get a bit of baked bean, bit of potato, bit of corned beef, I'm sorry, that's bang on the money. It really is. I mean, that's not a very expensive meal to knock up, let's be honest, is it? And if you used to do some other things, but you could feed 4 people with that for no problems. And what does it cost? I got the corned beef and the baked beans from Lidl's. The other stuff I'd kicking about Let's be fair. Yeah, that's okay. I'm pleased with that, and I think the people down the road are going to be pleased as well. So, thanks for watching the video, folks. I really do appreciate it if you've come this far. If you like this sort of stuff and you want to see me get up to some other stuff, a bit of camping, a bit of exploring and stuff like that, why not consider subscribing to the channel? And maybe click like and share. That'd be fantastic. Anyway, until next time, folks, take care out there, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.